Right, I want you to find the end of your 7-3 notes on multiple step equations. It looks like this. You did a practice problem. And I want you to go ahead and write the essential question for 7.3. How can I use multiplication and division to write an equation? After you finish writing the question, I want you to start dating your notes also, so it's easier for you to go back, match the video with the notes. And this is actually the 21st tomorrow when you write it. I'm filming it on the 20th. So pause the video now and go ahead and take a couple sentences to intelligently respond to this question. Make sure you are demonstrating that you understand the question. Alright, you should have just unpaused the video, and we're going to look at writing equations with two variables. At one point you will need a sheet of graph paper and a ruler. Not right now though. Alright, so this is 7.4, writing equations in two variables. And you can look, just so you keep in mind the question, how can I write an equation in two variables? So be expected to explain that question after we get through 7.4. We need to look at some vocabulary that you need to become familiar with. So two variable equations means that it has two variables or two quantities. Comparing two quantities, usually an x and y value. And then, of course, just to note, solution for this is an ordered pair. So if we're writing an ordered pair as our solution, you know that we'll be plotting points and showing our equations on a coordinate plane. Good news is most of the time it is in quadrant 1. Think to yourself, quadrant 1 is the top right. Alright, two very important things for writing equations with two variables is understanding the difference between independent variables and dependent variables. So something that is independent is going to act by itself, like saving a certain amount of money. If I save $5 every week, that is an independent variable. Then the dependent variable, which relies on me saving that $5 each week, would be the total amount of money saved. It's going to change every time. It's going to change by $5. So an independent variable changes freely and is usually your X point. So independent. Think about independent. If you want independence, your you want to do things on your own, right? So an independent variable is a variable that changes freely. So, for example, saving $5 each week then dependent variable, it depends. That word depend, right? It depends on the independent variable. So its change depends on the independent variable changing. So dependent variable, its value depends on independent variable. So the example would be the total amount saved is changing because of the $5 each week. Right, so $5 a week would be the independent, but depending on so many weeks, right, that's where the dependent variable comes in, would change the amount of money you're saving. This would also be your Y. So then you can notice your ordered pair. If you go back up, your ordered pair, right, X and Y, this is your independent, and here is your dependent. All right, so we need to identify independent and dependent variables. So this will be looking at an equation, and you're going to see now y equals, and then x will be on the other side. So the equation y equals 128 minus 8x gives the amount in fluid ounces of milk remaining in a gallon jug after you pour x cups. So y is the remaining amount, and if it's in a remaining amount and it's in a milk jug, we're dealing with what type of unit, right? Fluid ounces. So it's fluid ounces remaining. Then the x would be the cups you pour, or you think about it, removed from gallon. So the amount remaining depends on the number of cups poured. So the amount remaining depends on the cups poured. So go ahead and pause, and I want you to label X and Y on this sentence. Which one is the X? Which one is the Y? Make sure you pause before you do it. I want you to be able to identify which is independent. And there you go. Now that you unpause it, you should see that. So now, I don't need to flip it. How much milk is remaining? How much milk is remaining after you pour 10 cups? So you pour 10 cups. So in order to find out how much is remaining, you need to first write the equation. So y equals 128 minus 8. Plug in your parts. 128 minus 8 times 10. You see that we're pouring 10 cups. So that goes in for the X. So then I'm following the order of operations, and I'm going to simplify 128 minus 80, or 48. So then I can, so what does the 48 mean? 48 means ounces remaining, which would be your independent or your dependent variable. See, I even mix those up sometimes. So then your ordered pair would look like ordered pair. Here's your X. And the way you think about it, this is the independent variable. And you have to get your answer, which depends on solving the problem. So you see that 1048 would be your ordered pair, though your answer is 48 ounces remaining. So on your own, try if there were 7 cups poured out. 7 cups poured. How many ounces remaining? So pause the video. I want you to find and try this on your own. So I'm rewriting the equation, plugging it in 7 equals 128 minus 56. Make sure you get that. Now, to be able to get this, I'm just going to subtract it on the side. Don't be afraid to do something like this. You get 72 What does that 72 represent? 72 fluid ounces remaining. Alright, so a real life application for this, and we're going to walk through this whole thing. We have the question, we're going to identify independent and dependent variables, then we're going to write our equation. We're going to make a little chart and then a coordinate plane. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Pause the video if you need. So a new roller coaster has 3 seats in each row. So you have to, right at the beginning, you look at the problem and think to yourself, what is independent and then what's changing because of the other one. So what would be independent would be the rows, right? Because each one has 3 seats. And then what's dependent is, well, depending on the rows, it's going to tell you the total amount of seats, or the number of seats is dependent. So the number of seats needed depends on the amount of rows that are being filled. You see how that works? Alright, so then my equation is going to be, your answer is going to be the dependent part. So here's my equation. Right, I want it to be y equals, and then it's 3 seats per row. So that means 3 times x, because it's the 3 seats per row. So now I wrote my equation based off of here. Right, you have to think about it. Every one row would be 3 seats. So, and that's what we're going to look at in our chart, our data table here. You have your x and y, and then your ordered pair. So you want a 3-column table. I have my X, or my rows, right? The amount of rows. You've been on a roller coaster before, I'm sure. You see the rows, and then the amount of seats that are getting filled up by people, and then you have your ordered pair. And the ordered pair is where we're going to put our little point on the graph. So let's say I have 1 row filled, 2 rows filled, 3 rows filled, and 4 rows filled, because I'm multiplying by 3. This would be 3, and then 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 3 is 12, 1, 3, 2, 6. You see, use the X and the Y. 3 and 9, and 4 and 12. Now this is where you should want to use your ruler, but you get a piece of graph paper, kind of keep this up here, and I'm going to keep it where I can still see I still want to be able to see that, so make my, which quadrant is this? This is quadrant 1. Make my coordinate plane. Now you see, because my X is my rows, this is going to be my rows down here. Rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0 is always right there, or the origin. And then my seats is my Y, so I have seats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now I want to use the ordered pair and plot the points. I go over 1, up 3. Now of course this one needs to be a lot larger. 7, 8, 9. And then 2, I go up to 6. And then 3, I go up to 9. And then you look at that, and it's starting right at 0, right? Because if I had 0 rows, I would have 0 seats. Right? Nobody's sitting on them. And now you can see that it climbs at a steady rate. And for each row, there are 3 seats. And you notice this climbs by 3 each time you go over 1 row, and then it goes up 3. Alright, and I want you to try page 320. I want you to try page 320.
Please excuse the interruption. There is a PBS meeting taking place in guidance now. Thank you.
Number 26 and 27, and then you have to have Mr. Burns or Miss Russell check your answer. Watch the video again, pause it if you have to. And then once we give you the okay, then you will get your classwork assignment after that.